available to your speakers in 2017. Only on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
Well, since we are recording this for September 15th, we'll be passing a day that is very important in video game history. On September 9th, that is the birthday of three very different, very important consoles in the history of video games, at least for North American dates. On September 9th, the Super Nintendo turns 26. That's fucking old. The PlayStation turns 22, and the Dreamcast turns 18. The Dreamcast is now legal to sleep with. That's very important because it's a very sexy machine. So I just want to say happy birthday Super Nintendo, happy birthday PlayStation 1, and happy birthday Sega Dreamcast. And I just want to do maybe a little bit of a talking about both of our experiences with all three consoles. Let's start with the Super Nintendo. So, I can admit, growing up, I didn't play a lot of Super Nintendo, mainly because I was like NES and Genesis type of kid before the N64 came along. But some of my friends had Super Nintendo, so that's where I'd play like F-Zero, Super Mario World, Battletoads and Battlemania, Donkey Kong Country, etc., and Doom. I spent most of my Doom playtime growing up not on PC. It's where I started, but I didn't have a PC. I spent most of it actually playing on the Super Nintendo, sadly, as butchered as that port is. But what memories do you have with the Super Nintendo, Frankie, considering it's older than you are?
It is older than me. I've never owned a Super Nintendo. I own a Retro 5, and I have 2 Super Nintendo game cartridges.
You've got a whole 2. What 2? Do they even matter to you, the 2 games that you have?
Not really. One was like, hey, I just got a Retro 5. I want a really cheap Super Nintendo game. So I got Star Wars, Super Star Wars?
Super Star Wars, yep.
And the other one is I found F-Zero at Valley Village for $5. And I was like, sure, I'll grab it.
You don't care about F-Zero?
I care about F-Zero.
Okay, that's something.
I care about, like, it's fun, but it's not like something like I'm dying for. Like, it's not like, it's something I enjoy playing, but it's not like something I'd put, like, I don't know, like 30 plus hours into.
Well, how about, like, growing up, what were some of your favorite experiences playing Super Nintendo games? And if you didn't even play them on original hardware, because, like, they're on Wii Virtual Console, maybe even ported to other machines, what stands out to you when you're, like, Super Nintendo and you're like, fuck yeah, these games?
Link to the Past.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I've never beaten it, but I when I first got it. Poor grammar here. When I first got it, it was the Game Boy Advance version.
Yep.
I've put like 20, 30 plus hours in it to it, and then I got sidetracked with something else. But my experience of it, I really loved the game. I was really shocked that he had pink hair. I was like, what?
We just accepted. We accepted it back then.
I think it's something to do with the color palette or something with that, and it's just like, whatever. Okay, what? Pink hair, sure. My memory is really foggy with the game because it was a while ago, but I've had a blast playing it. Another game I've been enjoying on my 3DS is Super Mario World. Mm-hmm. Still haven't beat it, but I do enjoy it when I do play. It's my game that I go to if I just want something quick and fun to play.
Just off the top of your head, what would you think is your favorite Super Nintendo game?
Favorite Super Nintendo?
Right off the top of your head, you're like, fuck yeah, this game. You could change in the future if you want, just on the spot then.
I know it's not like I don't own this game.
That's fine.
Zombies ate my parents. I fucking love
It's No, it's Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Yeah. You can understand why you caught me off guard with that. I don't know of a sequel. The sequel is called Ghoul Patrol. If there is a Zombies Ate My Parents, I am unaware of that game. He is facepalming really hard right now on the other side of this mic. Should I just move on and just let you sit with your guilt right there, your shame?
This is being edited out.
All right, let me help recover from that botch. I'll just end the Super Nintendo segment by saying my favorite Super Nintendo game of all time. A lot of people are like Super Metroid, Zelda, Mario World. They're good contenders. For me, Super Castlevania 4, without a doubt, is my favorite Super Nintendo game because I'm a big Castlevania guy. I love I was going to say original trilogy. Fuck 2. I love 1 and 3, though. And Super Castlevania 4 was just like, holy fuck, this is what a Super Nintendo game is to a Nintendo game. Like, I don't know, a lot of people say that about World, and I understand that. Just something about Super Castlevania 4's, maybe it's the theme, maybe it's the expanded soundtrack, but that made me feel like this is the next generation. I want a Super Nintendo for Super Castlevania 4. But, moving on to the PlayStation, do you have any memories of being a PlayStation kid?
I have a PlayStation 1 at least.
Mm-hmm.
I can say that. I did own a PS2 before the PlayStation 1, but PS2 was backwards compatible with PlayStation 1 games. So I had my fair share with the PlayStation 1 library. Favorite PlayStation 1 game will have to be Spyro.
The original, 2 or 3?
I haven't beat number 2 or 3, so I'm going to go for 1. 1. I fucking love Spyro Run. It's a great platformer, 3D platformer. I believe it was the first 3D platformer on the system.
At least that I can think of that was a proper 3D platformer.
Yeah.
Like Crash was like a hallway 3D platform, but Spyro was like a nice open world that you could like go through, and yeah, it's like what you think of 3D platforming. Spyro very much is the like best representation of that.
Yeah, I just love how like the game, like difficulty can tier to a certain player. If you just want to go through the game without collecting all these certain things, you can. But if you want to get all these like hard to reach collectibles and like that type of stuff, you can. Another game I really enjoy. I find it's better than Mario Kart. Is the Crash Bandicoot Team Racing game. I think
Crash Team Racing,
yeah,
CTR.
Crash. Fucking love that game. It's better than fucking Mario Kart. I don't care.
Hefty words. There's a war. I'm not even gonna talk about that war of CTR versus Mario Kart. I'm not even gonna touch that. I'm just gonna let you have that.
Okay. If we're comparing Mario Kart 64 versus CRT, CTR. Sorry, fucking things getting mixed up in my head. It's better than Mario Kart 64.
Bold claim. We'll let the comment section decide that.
Come at me, bro.
But what memories do you have growing up with the PlayStations? Like, yeah, you had it, or you could play your PS1 games through your PS2, but like maybe speak about some of your memories, rather like first game, most impressed.
First, I'll explain the first time I actually been introduced to the PlayStation 1. Was when I went to my friend's cottage house. It was like far up north, and the only system he had there was the PlayStation 1. I remember playing CTR, Crash Team Racing. Got it?
Yep.
Good. And this weird, it was a first-person shooter game, and it was like you're an army man. I'm not sure what it's called.
Probably there's Army Men. There's the series Army Men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Army Men Surge's Heroes. I think 1 and 2 were on the PS1.
You're like these green toy army men.
Yeah, that's the Army Men series.
Yeah. I didn't mind those. They were okay.
Yeah, they're okay.
They weren't like fucking amazing, but that's the first time I've ever been exposed to it. I still kind of buy PlayStation 1 games here and there if I get them for a good price. I also really enjoy Twisted Metal.
Yeah, good solid series.
Also, given Crash Bandicoot, I fucking love those games. 2 is my favorite of the series. I really like SmackDown 2. Still trying to find a copy. It's for some reason freaking really hard to find. But like I've emulated it. Sorry. But like if I had it near me for $30, I would buy it in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, your shop never gets them in. I've never seen them there.
I can't say much about that. I have it. That's it.
Yeah. It's pretty much for the PlayStation 1. I'll still be playing it to this day. I fucking love the system.
Alright. I was introduced to the PS1 actually really early. I had a really good friend when I was growing up who was like my age in some of my classes in elementary school, and his dad got a PS1, and he was like a super Sony like fanboy, even though he was like 35 or whatever, and his family was like super Indian, so it was really hard to talk to his mom and dad because they had like really thick accents, and they didn't understand some of the like I don't know childhood slang. I'll put it that way, like 90s slang, radical, whatever. But one thing me and his dad could actually talk about was like video games on the PS1. And I remember that like I was way more into video games than my friend Renee was. He was like, "Hey, they're fun, but like I don't know." He just didn't appreciate it as much as I did. I remember there'd be times where like he did something bad, he got grounded, but I was still allowed to go over to his place and play Crash Bandicoot on the PlayStation 1 or Blasto or Apocalypse so that I could sit there and like talk about them with his dad with his broken English, and he's like picking up on like I was helping him learn English by talking about these games with him. And like Renee would be sitting there like, "Oh hey Renee, like oh man, it sucks that you can't come out for like, you know, play outside in the park or whatever, or you can't play with me playing Twisted Metal or whatever on your PlayStation, but like hey, you want to watch me play your PS1 and Crash Bandicoot and talk to your dad about it?"
You know, it's just like a big fuck you, just like. Ugh.
But it was like that was the only way I could play the PS1 for like 2 years. Was mainly going to Renee's house whenever like a big game would come out. His dad would be like, I want you to bring your friend over here." I can't do an Indian accent, but whatever. And then we'd like be at school in like grade 2, grade 3 or whatever, and Renee would be like, "What are you doing after school?" And I was like, "Oh, it's just gonna like play N64, watch Dragon Ball Z, whatever." He's like, "My dad wants you to come over and wants to show you a new game." And I was like, "Fuck yeah, what game is it?" He's like, "Oh, like Metal Gear Solid or something, or Parasite Eve, whatever it was." That's where I got that exposure to it until I had another friend with one a couple years later that let me borrow his PS1. I lent him mine 64, and this is like 99, so like super late. And I was like trying Marvel vs. Capcom and all that, so it was like having it inside my house now until I got my own PS1 and like I think maybe later that year, 1999. It's been a while, but when I bought it, the first game that I could call my own was actually Spyro the Dragon. That was my first owned PlayStation 1 game, and I prefer 3, but like I still really enjoy Spyro 1. It's always up there, but
Is that what called Year of the Dragon?
yeah, the third one is Year of the Dragon for Spyro. But out of all the PS1 games that are like top tier for me, my favorite PS1 game will always be the original Medieval. And anyone that knows me knows I never fucking shut up about Medieval. I love the storyline. I love the characters for Daniel Fortescue. I love just not even like when I mean story, I mean the overall like the premise, the atmosphere that the storyline actually puts weight on. It's just it's so good and it's so unique. There's nothing like Medieval out there. It's not just a 3D hack and slash. But to move on, we've now got to talk about the Sega Dreamcast. And Sega Dreamcast was huge. I'm actually going to start off with this because Dreamcast is very special to me. It is top 5 systems ever for me. And the last time that I've been blown away by something going on in the video game industry was specifically with the Sega Dreamcast. And that's not something I get anymore when there's new tech coming out and they're like, "Hey, look what we can do now." And I'm always like, yeah, that's slightly better than what I saw before. That last big, like, how the fuck are they doing this was with the Dreamcast. I remember going into a Blockbuster a couple months before the Dreamcast came out. They had a kiosk there, and they were demoing Sonic the Hedgehog, or Sonic Adventure, I should say. Which, like, everyone remembers the demo for Sonic Adventure. And it was specifically at the part where you're running across the bridge, across the water, and then the orca starts attacking and destroying the bridge behind you as the camera pans in front of you, kind of like Crash Bandicoot with the boulder thing. And I remember watching the speed of the game at 60 frames per second, and as the orca is destroying the bridge, there's like thousands, if not millions of polygons going on at once at 60 frames per second, no slowdown. And I was like, how in the fuck can a console, can a piece of hardware process this much information at this speed and not choke on it? Doesn't have a threshold, doesn't slow down. This isn't just the future of video games. This is the epitome of video games. It does not get better than this. It will never get better than this. Fuck, we've hit the ceiling with this. Obviously, we've passed that, but at that time, it was a whole other fucking ball game. You haven't gotten that kind of blown away by tech since Super Mario 64 and seeing him run around like a gerbil in a playground. Sonic Adventure changed the game. It was like a little glitchy game, but whatever. But like at that time, man, you were only like 2. I don't know how old you were back then, but that hype, it's still in me. Like talking about this, I got goosebumps, man. I'm energetic. You can feel it. You can hear the energy coming out of me. You can feel it of how pumped I was like 18 years ago about this game. What do you have to say about the Dreamcast?
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna kill the party here. I've never owned a Dreamcast. I've probably max played 30 minutes on a Dreamcast.
Oh god.
I have played Crazy Taxi on my smartphone, of all things. And Sonic Adventure 2 on the original hardware. But I have plans of buying a Dreamcast. Is because there's a lot of good Japanese pro wrestling games for it. And that will be down the pipeline. That will be my next investment.
Yeah, you just recently invested in the Saturn, so yeah, Dreamcast is your next step, so I have faith that you will jump over the Dreamcast, and I'll help you make that transition, because I have like 50, 60 Dreamcast games anyway. But out of what you've played for the Dreamcast or on other hardware that are Dreamcast games, like Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, per se, on GameCube, what would you think is your favorite Dreamcast game that you've played, even if it's on other hardware?
Sonic Adventure 2?
Yeah, that's a good solid choice. Sonic Adventure 2?
I'm sorry, it's just like...
It's up there.
It's out of those two.
Okay, yeah, I guess it's out of those two. No
It's just
Skies
like-
of Arcadia, no American Wheeler.
No.
Those are so great. I guess I'll just say my favorite game. A lot of people are like Skies of Arcadia, Sonic Adventure 2, that's a really popular one. Phantasy Star Online. No one ever mentions Crazy Taxi, though. Like you said, you played it on your phone, but everyone's like, oh, Crazy Taxi's a good game. It's a fun game. I love Crazy Taxi. It's never in their top 5, though, but for me, I own a Dreamcast for, like, many reasons, but the top reason is to play Crazy Taxi, the definitive version of Crazy Taxi. I've got one more story to share about that Crazy Taxi. A couple years ago, I was working for another company, and I thought the company was all, like, I'll say legit, like over the table, legit, no shady shit going on. And I was there for like 21 months or something, so almost 2 years. And when I got into like a manager position or a supervisor position and saw some of the inner works in the company, turns out they're a bunch of shitbags. So I was really pissed off, so I like stormed out of there, I quit. I went over to my other work, which I'm still at now, and this is like 6-7 years ago, maybe even more. And I looked my boss in the face, I'm like, I just fucking quit my other job. I need a fucking Dreamcast right now and Crazy Taxi. That is the only thing that is going to like take away the level of anger that I have that I just put 21 months into a shitty company. Crazy Taxi is the only thing I can think of that's going to calm me down. And we did not have a copy of Crazy Taxi in stock. So I bought the Dreamcast and I had my boss. I'd never buy things online. That is something that I very much avoid. I had him order a copy of Crazy Taxi. I paid the extra money to have it shipped in 2 days just so I can get it out of my system. And those 2 days, I was still like filled with rage. I was like, what pieces of shit. Like, just, I'm not going to say what they were doing, but they were like ripping people off, stealing information. It was a bad workplace that I was completely unaware of some of their shady practices. But then, 2 days later, get a call from my like, you know, good boss. Going to work, pick up the Crazy Taxi, go home. It was all good, man. Once I popped that in, and it's like, welcome with Crazy Taxi, here we go. And then you just hear the offspring kicking in of like, yeah. And it's like, all that rage is gone. It's like, I can't even explain it. That is one of my most therapeutic games I can always go to, and that's why Crazy Taxi, for me, is the best Dreamcast game. When I think of the Dreamcast, the first game to come up is fucking Crazy Taxi. No questions asked. So, does anyone in the comments have like stories they want to share, or some favorite memories, or fuck, I'm fucking this up. Let's try this outro again, just because I'm so much in crazy taxi mode right now. So you in the comments, do you have any favorite memories of the Super Nintendo, the PlayStation, or the Dreamcast? Or maybe some of your favorite games, some of the cool peripherals you may enjoy, the Dreamcast keyboard and mouse. I should have talked about that, but whatever. Please share it in the comments. We love reading this kind of stuff. We'll see you next time.